Welcome to Mostly AI. I'm Derek Kane. A quick note, outside of my role as host, this podcast is entirely AI generated. Let's get into it.
Imagine you walk into a routine checkup. No symptoms. You feel fine. And then the AI flags something. A subtle pattern in your imaging that no human eye would have caught. 18 months later, that flag turns out to be early-stage pancreatic cancer. Caught, treated, survivable. That is not a hypothetical. That is happening right now in 2026. Welcome to the Emerald Circuit. I'm your host, and today we're going inside one of the most profound transformations in human history. What happens when artificial intelligence meets the art and science of healing? My guest today has spent the last decade at the intersection of clinical medicine and machine learning, and I can tell you, this conversation changed how I see the future. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. And I love that you opened with that story because it cuts right to the heart of what we're actually talking about. This isn't about robots replacing doctors. It's about something much more interesting than that.
Let's start there, because I think a lot of people still have this image of AI in medicine as either science fiction or just better spreadsheets. What is actually happening on the ground in 2026?
Right. So the honest answer is it's both more mundane and more miraculous than people expect. On the mundane side, AI is now embedded in radiology workflows in most major hospital systems. It reads CT scans, MRIs, pathology slides, it flags anomalies, it prioritizes urgent cases, so a radiologist isn't buried under 1,000 scans trying to find the one that matters most tonight. That's the quiet revolution. It's not glamorous, but it's saving lives every single day.
And the miraculous side?
The miraculous side is drug discovery. I still get a little stunned when I say this out loud, but we are now seeing AI compress what used to be a 15 to 20-year drug development timeline down to 3 to 5 years, in some cases less. AlphaFold changed everything when it cracked protein folding, and now we have second and third generation tools building on that. We have AI systems that can simulate how a molecule will behave in the human body before a single lab test is run. That is genuinely new in the history of medicine.
3 to 5 years. I want people to really sit with that. Because what that means is diseases that have been death sentences for generations are now on a different timeline. What areas are seeing the biggest breakthroughs?
Oncology, obviously. Cancer drug discovery has been transformed. But the ones that move me most are the rare diseases. There are roughly 7,000 rare diseases. Most of them have no treatment at all because the patient population is too small to justify the traditional R&D investment. AI changes that calculus entirely. Suddenly, you can model a disease pathway, identify a candidate molecule, and run a targeted trial at a fraction of the old cost. Families who had no hope are starting to have hope. That's real.
And this connects to something I wanted to ask you about, personalized medicine. Because it feels like we're moving away from this idea of a standard treatment for a standard patient towards something much more individual.
Exactly. And this is where AI's ability to process enormous complexity becomes almost poetic in a way. Your genome, your microbiome, your lifestyle data, your prior treatment history, your real-time biomarkers, a human physician cannot hold all of that simultaneously and derive an optimal treatment plan, but an AI system can. And what we're seeing in 2026 is that oncologists, cardiologists, neurologists, they're using these tools to say, this specific patient with this specific molecular profile will respond better to this drug at this dose with this monitoring protocol. One-size-fits-all medicine is becoming a relic.
So where does the doctor fit in all of this? Because I imagine some physicians feel, maybe a little displaced.
Yes, that's a real conversation happening in every medical school right now. But here's what I've actually observed. The physicians who embrace these tools become extraordinary because what AI cannot do, and I want to be very clear about this, is sit with a patient who has just received a difficult diagnosis. It cannot hold a hand. It cannot read the fear in someone's eyes and know when to speak and when to be silent. It cannot integrate the unmeasurable, the patient's values, their family situation, what they define as quality of life. That is irreducibly human. AI handles the pattern recognition at scale. The physician handles the meaning-making. And together, they're better than either alone.
That's a beautiful distinction. Pattern recognition versus meaning-making. But I have to ask, because I think we'd be doing our listeners a disservice if we didn't. There are real concerns here. Data privacy, algorithmic bias, the risk that these systems encode the inequities that already exist in medicine. How do you hold that tension?
I hold it with a lot of discomfort, honestly. And I think that discomfort is appropriate because the bias problem is real. If an AI system is trained predominantly on data from one demographic, and historically clinical trial data has skewed heavily toward white male patients, then its recommendations may be less accurate or even harmful for women, for people of color, for elderly patients. We have documented cases of this. And the answer is not to slow down the technology. The answer is to demand better data, more diverse training sets, rigorous auditing, and regulatory frameworks that have teeth. The FDA's AI oversight framework, updated in 2025, is a step in the right direction, but we have to stay vigilant.
I appreciate you saying that without flinching, because I think the most trustworthy voices in this space are the ones who can hold both the wonder and the warning at the same time.
That's the only honest position, I think. Medicine has always been about navigating uncertainty with humility. AI doesn't change that. It just raises the stakes.
Let's talk about what's coming, because you mentioned things to me before we started recording that I'm still thinking about. What's on the near horizon that feels almost miraculous, but is actually grounded in where we are right now?
A few things. First, continuous health monitoring. We're moving toward a world where your wearable isn't just counting steps. It's monitoring dozens of biomarkers in real time, and an AI is watching for the earliest whisper of a cardiac event, a metabolic shift, the first signs of a neurological change, weeks or months before you'd feel anything. Prevention at a scale we've never had before. Second, AI-guided surgery. We already have robotic surgical systems, but the next generation integrates real-time AI analysis during the procedure itself. The system sees things the surgeon's eye cannot: tissue boundaries, vascular structures, tumor margins, and provides guidance in the moment. Surgical precision is becoming almost architectural. And third, and this one I find the most profound, AI is beginning to help us understand the aging process itself. Not just treating diseases of aging, but modeling the biological mechanisms of cellular senescence. There are serious researchers who believe that within the next decade, we may have interventions that don't just extend lifespan, but extend health span, the years of vibrant, functional life. That is a different kind of future than we've ever imagined.
Health span. I love that word because it reframes the whole question. It's not just about living longer. It's about living well for longer. You know, I came into this conversation with a kind of cautious optimism, and I'm leaving it with something that feels more like grounded awe, like we're standing at the edge of something genuinely new.
That's exactly how it feels from inside the field. And I think the most important thing is that this transformation belongs to everyone, not just to researchers and tech companies. Patients need to understand it, families need to advocate for it, and the data that powers it needs to be handled with integrity and care.
Which brings me to something I want to share with our listeners. If you want to go deeper, if you want to understand how intelligent data is actually being used to transform healthcare outcomes, visit cleardataai.ai. The work being done there around data integrity in medicine is exactly the kind of foundation this future needs to be built on. Because the healing circuit only works if the data flowing through it is clean, ethical, and trustworthy.
Beautifully said. The pattern beneath the fragments. That's what good data reveals. And that's what good medicine has always been about.
Thank you so much for being here. This conversation is one I'll carry with me for a long time.
The honor was mine, truly.
And thank you for listening, for caring, for being the kind of person who wants to understand what's unfolding in the world. We'll see you next time on the Emerald Circuit. Stay curious, stay whole.
You've been listening to Mostly AI, a podcast built with AI-generated content, production, and audio elements. Thanks for being here. Until next time.